Well, even if you haven't asked it, I'm going to. What's it like being the Phoenix Fire Chief, Bob Kahn? No, what's it like when you were not the fire chief? What's it like as a firefighter tragically having to pull a child out of a pool, as so many of your people have had to these past few weeks?
That's a great question. People see the camaraderie that we have and the enjoyment that we have with each other and the fun of the job. But human suffering is something that tags you for the rest of your life. And you have to be a hardy individual to handle that. It takes its toll on your soul. I know the PEDS call, the children's calls that I've been on, like most firefighters, will stay with you the rest of your life. If you have kids, or when you get kids, you remember those calls. And we had a horrible car wreck with kids involved, 3 kids that were really, we call them 901H. They were really killed at the wreck scene. Firefighters and police officers working on them. It takes its toll. Drownings are the same way. Drownings are really tough because there's nothing really wrong with the child. It's just that their respiratory shut down and their brain isn't functioning. But they otherwise look normal. And about 15 minutes before you got there, they were normal little 3-year-olds. And so
just like yours.
Just like my girls.
So you pull this lifeless child out of a pool, and at that moment you still don't know whether you can, as a trained professional, save that life. Don't you ever want to turn around and say to the parents, where the hell were you?
Sometimes when you get back to the station, you scratch your head because you're wondering about the parenting. But our job isn't to judge. Our job is to save. And when you're vested with that patient, whether it's a 3-year-old or a 93-year-old, that's your focus. You're trained to do that. And so you're doing as much work as you possibly can in a compressed time frame and trying to get that child to a hospital. So you don't really have time to assess the situation.
And when you get home?
You get home is a lot of downtime, a lot of quiet time. I still see that sometimes even in my own house where not a lot of conversation. It affects your personal life. You wouldn't be human if it didn't.
Let's talk about your personal life, and let's talk about the fire chief. How many people do you have in the employ of the Phoenix Fire Department?
About 1,963, I think, right in that ballpark.
What's it like to lose a firefighter?
Oh, it's gut-wrenching. I still wear a band for Brad. I just can't get him out of my mind. But I'm a.
Tell the newcomers who Brad was.
Brad was a young firefighter. He was the same age I was when I worked at the same station at 21s. He was killed on a fire. He was crushed between two fire vehicles, and it's like losing a family member. His parents were God-fearing, good people. He was a great personality for the fire department. So it haunts you. I mean, you don't want to ever have to go through that. And I've been through it a few times as a firefighter and as a chief officer and now as a fire chief, sadly.
How do you tell a spouse?
There's Father Carl helps with that, and we have people that are professionals at that. I think when you meet the spouse and his family, it's just a humbling experience. It's gut-wrenching. You don't want to say the wrong thing. You're thinking about the pain that they're in. It's human suffering, and it's probably at its highest level when you're part of that family, and I see myself as being part of that family.
There's clearly so many similarities, but what are the differences between firefighters and cops?
Oh, they have a tough job.
All of them?
Yeah, all of them do, and I have the utmost respect for what they do. I think firefighters work as a team, that a lot of times they're alone in their cars. We have a strategy and tactics and things that we do, but they're both, at the end of the day, they're both there to help you. And when you see that come to life on the street, when they're working together, I still have friends that were motor cops when I was down on Buckeye Road. Been to the weddings. I lived with 2 police officers when I was first on the job. It's just, we're the same, but we're a little different.
All right. Why are there 4 on every fire trip?
You can't ever catch up with a fire. And since Ben Franklin was around, literally,
I interviewed him.
you would staff for the worst case scenario. And there's been clinical research done, scientific research done by NIST that actually shows why we have to have 4 firefighters on a truck for a fire. Now, when we go on a medical call, we set up basically an ED room, an ER, emergency room, on scene. Then we will call and turn that patient over, if it calls for that, to a two-person vehicle. We have 2-person companies, but we assess with 4-person companies because they're there in the event of a fire or a bad car wreck, and it works well for our system.
Do you value female firefighters the same way you do men?
You're asking me that because I have 2 daughters. Yes, I do. I just promoted my executive assistant chief was a young lady that I worked with as a rookie, and she is now the 2nd highest ranking member in the Phoenix Fire Department, Kara Cockbrenner, and I couldn't be more pleased with the decision that we came up with, and she's doing a great job. She's a great firefighter too.
We just lost 19 in the Yarnell fire, but fortunately some years ago we gained Bob Kahn. He's the fire chief. And you know what? Not just Arizona, but the rest of the country knows he's among the best.